Good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is our DG Unlimited, Creatives Unlimited Next Level webinar, and the subject is social media. We've got the fabulous Leah Halliday here with us. Hi, Leah. Thank you for joining us. So Leah's going to be talking about Facebook and Instagram, focusing on that. It's social media for creatives and how they can get the best out of Facebook and Instagram. Leah, over to you.
Thank you. So hello, this is me. If you don't know me, I kind of have several hats. I'm a director of the Guild and one of 3 directors. So we use social media. So it's looking at it as an organisation, but also I am a self-employed designer and maker. So just a little bit background about me, and also where you can find me as well on social media. So I've worked within the creative industries for over 20 years now. My background is I'm a professionally trained as a fashion designer and also a marketeer. And as I said, I'm also a designer maker. I've been running my own business since 2003. And also as part of my business, I host popular sewing and creative workshops, and those have taken place in Dumfries over the last 9 years. And I also previously ran Lady Magpie and Me, which was an award-winning arts, craft, vintage and food fair in Castle Douglas. And to end it all, I worked in education in both FE and HE. So I managed to cram quite a lot of things into my work life. And as part of my social media, through my business, I've featured in Prima, I've worked with Country Living magazine, I've featured in Molly Makes, Simple Sewing, and Ideal Home. And I think it's important to say that most of those opportunities came via my social media accounts. So let's get started. So why use social media? I think it's important to say that social media is just one way to market your business. It allows you to build trust and a relationship with your audience, which is really fundamental for the success of your business. If you haven't got fans, followers, subscribers, then it's going to be really tricky for you to be selling products and services. So social media is a fantastic way of doing that. But I would say also that it really does help if you already know why you're in business, what gets you up in the morning, and why are you running your business in the first place. Also knowing about your brand, your values, your voice, and also your target audience. Those are all really crucial for creating an engaging, authentic, consistent, and memorable content that you're then going to be sharing on your social media accounts. So these numbers are just, why wouldn't you? It's a kind of lost opportunity not to be on some social media platforms. 2.38 billion users on Facebook, 1 billion monthly users on Instagram each month. So I'm going to focus on those 2. Obviously there are others, and what I would say as well is that you don't feel like you have to be on every single social media account. It might not fit with the audience that you are then trying to attract within your business. And I think it's really important as an individual business, and you've got your creative practice, that you use it to share the story, your story. It's important that it's coming from you, and I think that that's where creating an authentic kind of relationship and an engaging relationship with your audience then works. You're sharing the behind the scenes of your work, your inspiration, your process, and remembering to be true to yourself. You know, there's no point in you putting up an act or pretending. Yes, I know that, you know, social media is quite curated. You're not going to be, you decide how much you share with your audience. And also, you know, post things that make you happy, and that will then come across in the content that you're sharing. And creating a narrative lets other people follow along on your creative journey with you. So social media allows you to do this, but in no means am I saying that it's easy, okay? So just a little example of sharing a story. This is just about the Guild's journey. We've been around for 2 years now, and we really do strongly use Facebook and Instagram to share our story, the highs and the lows. So actually, the beginnings of the Guild started from a Facebook post that Kirsten, one of our directors, popped on Facebook, and it hit a nerve. We then got together and we ran a community consultation. We had 80 people attended, but we also used technology to then reach out to other people within the region. And we had over 1,000 people on Facebook Live watching that meeting as we kind of discussed our ideas. We also then launched an online survey. And I think through us sharing our story, we had over 1,100 people completed, and it was something like 82% said that they supported our idea. But without, you know, Facebook and social media, we wouldn't have been able to reach all those people. So, you know, you've got the potential to reach lots more people. So it's about building those connections and creating an engaged audience, and also then improving your engagement so that you're then getting not just likes, but you're getting people to comment, you're getting people to share. That takes time. So it's, you know, you're thinking about what you're doing. And what I would say is that don't focus on the numbers. I know that previously it was about how many followers you had. I would say it's better to have less followers, but they're then more engaged, they're replying to your comments, they're sending you messages, you know, they're sharing your content, than having thousands and thousands of followers, but they just don't do anything with what you're posting. And you're investing time in those relationships that you're going to be building. And that's the same if you think of it as friendships. It's just the same, that you have to put that time in and invest some time in it. So this was just social media, thinking about, you know, you can create connections, but it's not just about customers, it's also about that wider connection that you can make and building your networks with other makers, creatives, artists and photographers. Sometimes as an artist and a creative, you'll be working at home on your own. It can be quite a lonely occupation. So reaching out and forming relationships with other creatives that are going through the same things with you. Social media allows you to do that. You can form friendships, share inspiration, and build an incredible creative community with people from all across the world. So, you know, that's the thing that's really great about social media, is that you can find your tribe, and it doesn't have to be in Dumfries and Galloway. It can be across the other side of the world now with the joys of social media. So this was just an example of I'm known probably for my use of colour. Also, it features strongly within my work and my designs. And I found my tribe online. I usually get stared at in Dumfries and Galloway, but this is the in Colourful Company, and they do colour walks, and I have a whole set of friends that all wear the same jolly coloured tights as me. So, you know, it's just an example of, yes, it's you using it for your business, but actually it's quite a really lovely way to connect with other people. And it may be makers that are working in the same discipline as you, etc. So on to planning and strategy. And I wanted to ask, do you plan what you're going to post on social media? So have a little think about, do you have that somewhere on a calendar? Do you look at it in your quarterly plan? If not, then do you feel disorganized and slightly overwhelmed when it comes to social media? Now, if that answer is yes, then I would always say, yes, you want to do some things off the cuff and on the spur of the moment, but I would ask you, do you plan and schedule your content? How does what you post and the content you create work in alongside your business? Have you got a product launching? How are you taking part in an event? Are you running a workshop? All of those things, you need customers at the end up. And if you're then thinking about it in advance, you know the date of your launch, then you'll then have information that you can share for pre-launch, kind of warming people up to then make that purchase when you then come to launch. Now that's just a product launch, but there's other things that you can be thinking about within your content. So, and also thinking about what is the point of the information that you're sharing on your social media. What do you want to get out of it? And what's the reason for it? Is it to be building an audience, getting more visibility? Is it, as I said, is it so that you then get people to make a purchase? Or do you want them to come along to an event that you're involved in? Or do you want them to book a class that you're hosting? I would suggest that you create a really simple content plan or calendar so that you can plan that ahead. Now, thinking about it, you've got things like workshops, you've got products, you might have a blog post that's then coming out, you might be sending a newsletter out, you might then think about awareness days. So this week is Mental Health Awareness Day, so that might fit in really well with the products that and the designs that you have within your practice. There are lots of other ways of fitting in the moment with things that are going on, and there's actually a website that you can look at for awareness days, and sometimes it kind of gives you extra ideas for things to then share. And I would also say as well that when you're sharing content, you're not creating different things for different social media channels. You might write a blog, and some of the copy that you use within your blog and some of the photos could then be shortened down and brief to then be used on Facebook or on Instagram. I wouldn't directly share content, so completely just copy and paste and put it in. I would think about repurposing, but also then tweaking it slightly for the different channels that you're using our platforms. So this is just an example of a pop-up shop that we held in August in the Lorburn Centre. It was a huge project. We worked with over 30 makers. So, planning ahead allowed us to then schedule in. We usually share posts and highlight each of the makers. We also had a programme of events for the 2 weeks that we were open, so we had to then get people coming along and booking. So without planning that, it would have been a complete nightmare. We also asked people to spread the word. There was a hashtag that we used and asked people to join the conversation. And the shop was a huge success. It was a pilot project for hopefully a permanent space, but we had around 500 to 1,000 people coming into the shop each day. So, you know, we hope that that enthusiasm and using social media then was the reason for that. And we actually had people, which I don't find that often around here, that actually people were coming in and taking photographs of the shop and actually then sharing it on social media. So, you know, we created hopefully an Instagrammable kind of retail experience. So, improving your engagement and your reach. So, if you're already got your account set up, which you should have, you know, how do you then make that better? So I would say, you know, do you look at your insights? You're posting, you've made a plan, you've posted, now you need to evaluate what you're doing. You know, there's no point in just continually posting stuff and it's just not working. You know, the insights are there for you to use as a really useful tool. So looking at your insights and reviewing your content, thinking about what works and what doesn't work, and also looking at what I would say, basing it not on likes, but actually measuring it against engagement and reach. Don't use impressions because that can be more than one person. Your engagement and your reach is based on an individual person. So make a note, you know, look at your insights. You might do a review at the end of the year. You might decide to do once a month reviews and taking a note of what you're doing. And I think as well, if you're looking at making some changes, write down what your stats are just now, and then see by changing what you're doing, does it then have an effect on your engagement? Looking at the type of content as well, because there's lots of different ways of, can just be text-based. Images obviously work really well in Instagram, or is it video that's then creating more content? So what's special about those posts? And also looking at what works, but also what doesn't work. And is there a pattern to what's happening? Can it be, you know, obviously you can look at your insights and it'll tell you when users are using the app most often. So you want to be posting your content at that time. I know most of my followers are actually, well, it's kind of changed just now. It's kind of skewed a little bit because everybody's online at the moment, but my posts usually do better in the evening, 9 o'clock, and that's when actually thinking about your customer. You know, what does your customer do? Think about where they are. You know, if you're wanting to reach kind of if you're a children's wear designer, say, or your products are very children orientated, think about, well, they're busy, they're putting their child to bed at kind of 7 o'clock. It's only when they then sit down in the evening and possibly then sit and look at their phone. So thinking about what your customer is doing will then probably help you then think about what time of day do you want to then post. And it can be, you know, sometimes just the engagement doesn't work, and it might just be that it's the wrong time of day, and you haven't managed to get to reach people that way. So these are just some just screenshots of what you see on your insights. You've got your people reached on and from Facebook, so you can see you've got your click-throughs, so you might be thinking about, are you driving people? How many comments you got? Obviously, Facebook is based on your reactions. You don't just want people to like your post, you want them to react to that post. You also want them to share it, ideally, and you also want them to comment. That's then when Facebook, then the algorithm will then see that that is a valuable post, and it will then allow more people to see it on the news feed. So, and also as well, it's actually important that when you post your content is actually to be there. Yes, you can schedule in the content that you're posting, but it's actually being there at the time, because you want to then, if anyone then comments, you want to reply straight back. There's a kind of 15-minute window that then helps you to then get more reach if you're then replying back within that space of time. So, and then the other one is just, this was my yearly reach on Instagram, and actually it's now changed from the screenshot, obviously. But you can then get to figure out what type of posts your audience really like, and looking at reach, engagement, comments, you can break them down separately. So, we're talking about sharing our own story. So when was the last time you shared a picture of you on your social media account? Have a scroll through. I would say more than often, maybe not on your Facebook. I would say that this is probably more when we're talking about Instagram. Is it on your last 9 posts? Or do you have to scroll very far down your account to then find a little photograph of you? And think of it as, if you never show your face, then who is telling the story? That's the thing about being an individual indie business and you've got a creative practice. We've got one up on big, massive organisations. It's usually just us. We can then just post and tell our own story. We've got that facility to build a connection with our audience and make it engaging and make it consistent and also make it really personal. You know, we've got the chance to just speak to our audience and potential customers directly. So if you're a little bit scared about showing your face, what I would say is ease yourself in gently. You can show your hands. You may show the back of you when you're then working in your studio, but just show that there is a person there. I'm quite well known for my stripy t-shirts, so they usually feature quite often in my photos. And I would say that yeah, I'm really uncomfortable about getting my photograph taken, but I know that it is part of my business. I have to show my face. Actually, my showing my outfits usually on my stories then usually gets lots of DMs about where I get certain things. So I think that yes, it sometimes feels really uncomfortable, but I think that it's, if you just gently ease yourself in and then just start doing it, it then just becomes second nature. So as I said, do you appear on your grid on Instagram? Also in Instagram stories, do you talk to camera? Can people see your face on there? And as I said as well, that, you know, if you show yourself, then it's then easier to build meaningful connections. And it's those meaningful connections, they're the thing that maybe people will then go back to and think, do you know what? I'm looking for a gift, or I want to buy a piece of art. And if they feel like they then know you, you've then got more chance, you know, you're building that trust, you're building that relationship. And without that trust, then someone isn't then going to make that purchase. It's like any kind of sales, if you're leading it on to sales, but it's also then people following along because they're interested in you and they want to feel part of your business and be involved in it and see the journey. It also then helps people to relate to who you are. And then obviously, you know, we all find it easier connecting with a person, and, looking at someone's face. So I just wanted to share this, the kind of unexpected, sometimes you plan things. I grow lots of flowers in my garden, which inspire my floral designs. And I also have a collection of Cornish ware. So I usually share a photograph of my vase of flowers, and I use Grow Not Flown quite a lot, the hashtag. So I shared a picture of my jug of flowers, and then Cornish Ware picked up on my photo, then shared it on their account, and actually at the time it was one of their most popular images on their grid. So then they decided to launch a whole new product based around my jug of flowers. They actually did send me a lovely gift of a teapot to say thank you as well. I didn't get the bunch of flowers in the jug, but I actually thought my flowers were nicer than the ones. But they worked with a British grower, and for Mother's Day they offered a bunch of flowers and a jug as a gift. And then they've also then gone on to share my jugs of flowers occasionally. So yeah, so just in a way that I've shared that, and then it's obviously then reached their audience as well. So it's an example of also working with, I'm not a paid influencer, but you can possibly then collaborate with other makers or other businesses so that you're then reaching a new audience, and their audience will then see your account and what you're doing. So it's another example of that as well, that it's a good place to work together. So yeah, so talking about Instagram, so we all know there is a grid and a gallery. So this is about improving, having a little review of what you're doing just now. So when you look at your grid and your gallery, it should be the best of the best, okay? This is thinking about your grid and gallery as your portfolio. It really needs to show that when you land on your grid, people see in an instant what you're about. What are you doing? What's your brand? What's your creative practice? It should be high quality imagery, and it really needs to speak to your audience. You think about how quickly you make a snap decision about, right, well, am I going to follow that person or am I not? Is it something that connects with me? And it should then, when you look at it, it should reflect your brand, your ethos and your values. So straight away, in an instant, in a snapshot view, it should tell you something about who you are as a business, a creative business. So here's just 3 that I just pulled off, and you can see that they're very, very different in the style, their aesthetic. It could be dark and moody, it could be very pretty and light. So Tamsin Morgan is very kind of floral, slightly faded. You can see across her grid, you can really get a feel for her and her business. Liz, who is an illustrator and product-based maker in Liverpool, bright, cheery, colourful, fun. And then Kat is quite dark and moody. So you can really see the difference. So that's what you're then aiming for when then someone arrives on your grid. So your profile picture and your avatar. I think as a business owner, an indie business owner, you want to be using a photograph of yourself rather than a logo, and also consider whether or not it translates into a tiny scale. So obviously on someone's mobile phone, it's a lot smaller. So think about the photograph that you use and how that translates into when you're then actually using it on a mobile phone. And then your profile statement. That's that short statement above your grid that tells people who you are, what you do. So that really needs to, if someone reads that, they're then going to get an impression straight away of what type of content you then share on your grid. So you know, and it might include where you are. Also on your profile statement, you can use a clickable hashtag. So say if you use a hashtag as part of your business, you can put it in there. You can also, if you've got another account, you can then use a clickable at, which will take you to another account as well. So if you're working on another, you've got two accounts. So on mine, say I have my business one, but I also then clicks through to Dumfries Market Festival and also the Guild, so people can then go there to see things, because I usually share everything on my own account. You should then have a call to action as well. So you can have a direct, so you're going to be directing people to a URL, and also doesn't include an email or a contact number. You can choose whether people want to, if you want people to just text you, you can include that in the back end of your settings, or you don't mind people phoning you, and also then an email. And your URL, you can decide, you can change that. So say if you've got a product launch on Kickstarter, you would change that to that link, so it changes through if that's what you're kind of promoting. Also, you can use things like Linktree, so that if you've got a number of places where you want to then take somebody, you can then set that up. There's a lot of pros and cons about LinkedIn. There was a lot of glitches with it. Linktree, sorry, not LinkedIn, Linktree. There was a lot of glitches with it last year on Instagram. And also the other thing is that you could send someone to a specific page on your website that has, so it's a kind of, you're directing them directly to your website, but also is then like a Linktree page, but it's on actually your website. And as I said, you can use then clickable hashtags and @ as well. And then also on your Instagram, you can use captions. So when you post a picture or a video on your stories, you've got the opportunity to write a caption. And that really can take your pictures to another level. You know, they can be really meaningful. You want to be asking a question so that you're encouraging comments. Lots of people now use their captions as microblogging, so it can be seen as that way. And you can then invite your audience to share their experience. So you're encouraging a two-way conversation, and you know, reacting to experiences or getting them to then respond to what you're then writing. So one way of doing that is getting your audience to be part of your design decisions. So this was just one example, or no, actually two examples of how we've used that. So we did a funding on merch actually, and we designed Make It Happen t-shirts. But we actually, through our social media channels, actually asked people, we had 2 statements that came out, so we got them to choose which statement or logo that they wanted to see on the actual t-shirts, and also down to what colours of t-shirts, so that actually we were drumming up a kind of buzz around the t-shirts, and actually then deciding, well, which colours are we going to go with, which ones are most popular. So it was a good way to then look at what we were designing, and also then it allowed our audience to then feel like they were part of the design decisions. And also the pop-up bag, we actually got them to pick the fonts that we used. So it's a great way to then find out, you know, you're building this audience, but use them. You know, they're there, they can help you make design decisions, you know, and you then investing in a product, or if it's then getting produced, you're making the right thing. So also within Instagram are you using hashtags? Because if you're not, why not? You can use a maximum of 30, and they are a great way for you to then reach another audience, and and widening your reach and your visibility within, this is just in Instagram I'm talking about. Don't use hashtags on Facebook because they don't like them. Obviously, if you use Twitter, then obviously you'll be using hashtags there, but I'm basing mine around just Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, it allows you, if you're just posting a picture, all you're then doing is just sharing that information to your actual followers. No one else is then going to be able to see that content. So hashtags allow you to be discovered. And as I said, you're increasing the chances of you getting the content that you're sharing out to new audiences. Consider what hashtags you use. You know, they need to be linked to the image that you are sharing. And I wouldn't just copy and paste the same hashtags over and over again. Try out different ones and see how they work. And if that, then go back to your insights and see, did that have, and you can, in your Instagram, you can look at your insights per image too. So if you click on just above the post, and you'll then see the insights, and it'll actually tell you the percentage of how many people saw that post that weren't following you, and how did they find you through a hashtag that you posted. It's really interesting to then have a wee look at it. So if you're then using the hashtags, they will then show up in the Explore page, and they will then appear there. So people then follow hashtags as well. And another handy hint is actually to look at a hashtag, and then when you look at a hashtag in a picture, Instagram will suggest other hashtags that are then related to that hashtag. So you'll be able to then find things, keep a note of them in your phone, in your notes. And the other thing you can do as well is take part in challenges and campaigns with hashtags. They're a great way for people to discover you. You might have your own hashtag, as I mentioned. So when I send out my products, I encourage my customers to share their stitching using a specific hashtag. So you can encourage your customers to then share a picture of what they've bought and share it onto their account, and you can then share that possibly as a hashtag on your highlights on your Instagram. So yeah, so different campaigns. A big one, March Meet the Makers, huge, is just one example. And obviously during this time, the Maker Support Pledge is a really interesting hashtag at the moment for artists and makers. So, you know, it's a great way of finding, if you're looking for hashtags as well, Folksy have some articles on which ones. Molly Mates usually do an article now and again on up and coming kind of hashtags to use. There's also Hashtagify Me website, so there's different websites as well. And then, so as I said, yeah, so encourage customers to use your own hashtag, discover other hashtags in Explore, use apps for hashtag suggestions, and also the other little tip is consider the words that you're using, but using a hashtag in a different language. So you might, so say for me, embroidery is broderie in French, so I use that as a hashtag. So I'm then connecting with other people in different countries as well. And, you know, look at other accounts, see what ones they use. You'll have other makers that are similar in similar disciplines. You might have accounts that you look up to. Have a look at their hashtags as well. So we are on social media, and I'm afraid kind of time and effort is that you also have to be sociable. That's why it's called social media. So I would ask yourself, do you reply to the comments on your posts? And I kind of put this under the friendship. If you think of, if you went to meet a friend and you were having a conversation with them and you spouted out all the things about you and then they replied and you just ignored them, or you just gave them a little thumbs up, it's not really going to be building a really strong friendship with somebody. So I would say that this is exactly the same on social media. Make a comment more than just an emoji. Take the time, people have bothered to right there react to a picture that you've shared, and they've bothered to write a comment. So give them, it's polite, it's kind to then reply back. Also, do you go off and look at their accounts? Do you reply to their accounts, or have a look at their accounts and like their photos, and then even comment on their posts? The good thing about the comments is that on Instagram it'll pop up if a comment comes. It'll apply, if someone else has reacted to that post, it will then give them a notification that so-and-so has just commented on the post that you're tagged in, say. So it'll give them a little reminder as well. And as I said, on Instagram, try and return a favour. Visit their profiles, have a look, like their post, leave a comment. Also, as part of and I've forgotten the blooming word I'm thinking about, the algorithm. So in the algorithm, you need to be active in the app. And also if you change your habits, have a look and see. If you very rarely, you just go on, you post your photo and that's it. Think about when you're on there and actually spending more time on people's grids, having a look. That will then increase your reach and your engagement, because Instagram see that you're then actually using it. But I would say as well that, that's the whole point. You want to be building a relationship and a stronger community with your audience. That's when it becomes authentic and you have a real connection with the people that you follow. And, sometimes you then become friends with some of the people that follow you, and it can become that way. You're also then thinking about, it's about becoming emotionally connected with those people, but also, as I said, it's linked to the algorithm. It does help in that sense too. So Instagram stories. If you're not using Instagram stories, I would say try it. It's a great way. Lots of people now actually don't bother looking at your grid. I know I get more engagement sometimes on Instagram stories than I do when I post on my grid. And, reading the stat there, 68% of people become more interested in a brand or product after seeing it in stories. So, why wouldn't you do it? And it's a great way of doing kind of more in the moment stuff. Instagram stories is only there for 24 hours. So if it's, it doesn't have to be as curated as the content that you're sharing on your grid. So it can be much more the day-to-day. And a great way of then having conversations. You're creating a two-way conversation. And if people bother to send DMs to you, answer them. That is your way of speaking to someone one-to-one, and answering things back, and replying to them and starting a conversation with them. You can also use the features within Instagram stories to interact with your audience. So you've got the polls and the questions. So looking at your stickers that you can use, and then that encourages people to connect with you. So these are just some examples. You can use it to find out from your audience, well, what do you want me to post, or what do you enjoy seeing? It's a great way of then asking them what they want. I've just used it recently because I was asking if someone what they wanted a tutorial. It could be that they want a studio tour. ask the question and find out if it's actually something that they want. So you can also host Q&As, so you can do a set of questions, and also you might want to create templates that then are really showing off your brand as well. So these are just some templates, and then that encourages people to then reshare that, and then add mention you in it and a hashtag possibly. If you're not great at graphics, use something like Canva. They're there, and you can tweak things, or commission a graphic designer to create a couple for your feed that you can then use constantly. Also, another feature of Instagram Stories, you can create a countdown to encourage save the dates. So if you've got an event or a workshop, or you're taking part in something, if there's some kind of deadline, then that can then be set as a reminder. So there's the pop-up shop. Also things like a share for a share. We all love a share for a share. And that then encourages, you can create screens, you encourage them to take a screenshot, and then you then share something from their feed as well. So it's actually then working as a community to then share each other's content, but it's a benefit for you, but also a benefit for them as well. So then this was just an example of some creative ways to use Instagram Stories to get people involved and share the content that you're creating. So it's Popkins created this kind of doll illustration, which then encouraged you to share the template and then draw on to then create your own. So it's then creating a kind of creative way of reaching a new audience and getting people to share your content, but also then you then being able to share user-generated content. So you're not having to come up with lots of content all the time. And that's the same with when you're then asking people to then possibly share a photograph of what they've bought at home. That's then, we're all having to think about what we're sharing on there, but if you're then encouraging your audience to create the content, then it makes things easier for you too. So, and this is just about sales, that uncomfortable kind of word sometimes when it comes to being a creative business owner. Running a business is tough. And we're investing all this time in social media. So actually probably there's a reason you're running a business. It's not a hobby. So we need to kind of create an income. So I would think about, do you actually do a specific sales post on your Instagram now and again? So look at your 9 posts and see, and there's a happy balance as well, I would say. I would say that you want to do an actual direct sale, it's a 20%, and then the other 80% is the behind the scenes, it's sharing your expertise, it's giving value. So you don't want, when you look at your grid, to just have sale after sale after sale after sale post. It becomes boring. Think of it like you're sharing a magazine. So if you think about the different articles in a magazine, you're then sharing other accounts that might be of interest, you're sharing your behind the scenes, which are all in a way then making that sale, but they're not a direct sale post. And then this is just a stat which I think is really useful. Instagram is becoming far, far higher in where it's then you're getting your sales from. Facebook have just announced yesterday that there's then a new Facebook shop. It's already there, and I would say that obviously wait and see what this happens, but I would say that you're crazy not to use, so you want to be setting up your Facebook shop, and then that is then integrated into your Instagram account. At the moment, I've not got enough information about the new setup, but then on Instagram, you can then share click-through direct product posts. So they can be stickers on your Instagram stories. They can also be then tagged, products can then be tagged in your post. And that also then appears in the Explore area as well. You can also use a swipe up in your stories. Now, usually that is only allowed when you have 10,000 followers. But if you've got your shop set up in Instagram, you can use a direct so that they can shop now, or you can set it so it's individual products. So, you know, if you're not doing that, it's a great way to then sell, you know, making some money through the time that you're spending on social media. And then just lastly, you know, this is, you know, it's impossible to go through things in a 30-minute snapshot of Facebook and Instagram. You know, you could spend kind of a whole day on Instagram in alone, and the same with Facebook. So I've tried to cover some of the things which I think are kind of quick wins that, you know, just thinking about how you use it at the moment and how can you improve it. But I would say that, you know, your social media is part of the bigger picture. You know, everything that you do within your creative business is connected together. And I said it at the start as well, that it all has to be that same story, that same message that you're putting out across everything that you do, down to, you know, the product, the thing that you make or the design that you create, and then the messaging on your website, the tone of your voice and how you describe a product when it's on your website, and then the messaging that you use within your Instagram, and also the aesthetic and the visuals that you use. They're all connected. And that's when, you know, you then become recognizable, you become memorable, you're known for something, you stand out from the crowd. You know, social media is a busy place, and you think how quickly when you're swiping down through a news feed, you know, people make decisions in an instant, so you need to stand out as well. And I think that's really important. And the other thing is that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it does take work, and that's when it makes it easier when you then plan. You know, you can plan ahead and create content in advance. You know, it can all seem overwhelming, and I completely understand that. But hopefully, if you then just spend a little bit of time of planning what you're then going to do, then just helps you then hopefully make it a little bit easier. And as I said, it takes time and effort. But hopefully, I've given you some things to look for in your social media. And, you know, I would be really, really interested to know, you know, if there's any points that you've taken from this webinar and you've actually then implemented them within your business and they're actually making a difference, then, you know, let me know, because, you know, that's the interesting thing. I want to be kind of sharing this, but actually then you using it and then it actually having a positive benefit on your business. So, well, Q&A.
Well, yes, we've got some questions. We've definitely got. Thank you, Leah. That was really, really good. If you stop sharing your screen now.
Yeah, if I could just show this last.
Oh, yes, sure.
So, yeah. So I'd shared before, obviously, if you've never heard of the Guild or you want to get involved with the Guild, you know, connect up with us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we've also got a website as well. And just I wanted to say as well that we are hoping to offer some more creative business workshops as well, so I will be delivering them. So sign up to the mailing list or follow us and you can find out more information on that and the projects that we're running. Wonderful. And I'll just stop that. There we go.
Thank you, Leah. That was really, really, really good. Now, I did save some questions from the group when we did.
Oh, right, yes, yes.
So I didn't tell you this, but I thought it would be nice to end with an actual Q&A. So there were 3 questions that came up. So the first one is, what form does your content plan take? How do you do that?
So I have kind of 2. So within the guild, I have, say if I'm working on a specific project, how we do it is we do a content plan, and we'll usually, so I have a note of the Instagram account, the Facebook account, the Twitter account, also what's going on the website, and also mailing list and blog. So I have all of those. And then we then just look at, so if we're then doing a quarterly plan, we'll look at what projects we're working on, and then when, like, what messaging do we want to go out, and when. Obviously, if we're working, say on the pop-up shop, we had 30 makers, so we knew that we had to do profiles for 30 makers, so we had to plot all of those out at certain times. We know that on Facebook it's usually in the evening, so then when we then created the content, we then were then able to schedule that within Facebook, so it allows you to do that. For me and my business, I'm kind of looking at what I've got coming up. So if I'm then working towards a product launch, I would usually have a 4-week pre-launch. So I would be sharing information, and it's just really, I mean, it can be as simple as just like a plotting on a calendar or a spreadsheet, and then looking at, if you're working in a team as we do, we'll have links, so we're sharing the same content calendar. But I think to start off with, if you're not really, I do a yearly plan, then I do a quarterly plan, and I look at the things that are definitely in my calendar. So I know that I'm taking part in a certain event, I know that I've got workshops on, I know that I've got products out. If you then write a blog, do you write that blog like you put one out once a month, or do you put a newsletter out? So you can kind of, there's lots of ways of then creating the content. And also as well, I would say that, and I do this, although, because I do get messages from them saying, oh, how come it's so sunny at your house? And it's like, well, actually, that was the other day that I took those photographs. So actually, you can take photographs and then pretend that they're on the day as well. I tend not to do that for stories, because it really actually is usually the story of the day. But I think if you already know those things, you can then go off and think, right, well, I need certain product shots, say, or lifestyle shots. So it allows you with the content plan to then actually then think, right, well, what images do I need from a blog? Well, can I then use that same photograph? Or when I'm taking an actual product photo, can I take it so it's a wider angle and actually show the behind the scenes of it? So and I think that really helps, like when you're planning your content, because you think, right, well, what do I need? And you can then set some time beside to then think, right, well, today I'm going to take lots of photographs for my content. So you've got a kind of bank of images that you can then use. If you've then having a dry day and you've just got no inspiration, well, you've got that bank of content sitting there as well.
Okay, wonderful. The next question that was asked was Facebook and Instagram links to your personal account, even your business account links to your personal account. So if you're actually setting up something for an organization, how do you deal with that? Because Facebook doesn't like you setting up another private Facebook account that's not an actual real person. Does that make that question?
It kind of doesn't. Well, obviously you need a personal account to set up a Facebook business page. But I'm not quite sure as an organisation. So say we have the guild. So I have a personal account, which I don't actually use that often, actually, to be honest. Then you then have different business pages. Mm-hmm. So you just set those up, and then different people can then be admins of
I think
the
what they're asking is there a way to make the Instagram the business, not your personal Instagram? Because somebody's gone in.
Right, okay.
Right, yeah,
Right.
I think that's
So,
what they mean.
So as an organisation, you would have your own account, and then you would then set up a separate account for your business.
Right.
So and you can manage up to 5 accounts on Instagram.
Right.
So I manage a number of accounts, but you can switch between the accounts,
right.
Obviously remembering which account you're on, because sometimes you can post the wrong things on the wrong account. So that's how you would do it. And I would also then say that your Instagram needs to be a business account. That's you. If it's not a business account, you won't then see your insights. So that's the other important thing as well.
Thank you. And then finally, time commitments, being available all the time. They were saying that it was a real struggle because they feel as if to do it right, they have to be on Facebook and Instagram constantly, morning, noon and night, and you can't be. But I think that links back to your guidance on creating a content plan.
Yeah, exactly. And also then using schedulers. You can use external third-party apps for posting and scheduling stuff. So you've got things like Tailwind, you've got Buffer, you've got, what other ones did I have on here just in case? Planning. You've got Later, Planoly, Hootsuite, depends on if you're on analog or and actually Facebook allows you to then schedule posts as well, which a lot of people don't use enough. So you can create draft posts and then schedule them in as long as you're then, and that's, you could sit for one day and just write and schedule all your posts, so you could time it into your day. What I would say is that you do need to be present though, which I kind of mentioned before. Yes. Within that really helps, and also things like you can have an app where it then previews, so you can see how things look and move them around. But it does make it easier with the content plan. And I would say that also don't, your grid, make your content work for you and don't feel like you have to be there. I would say that I would make it consistent so that you are showing up, but it could just be once a week. You just post on your grid once a week and that's it. And then obviously with Instagram stories, it's perfect for just filming what you're actually doing, so there's no extra time involved. Set up a camera on a tripod, put it behind you if you're an artist, do a hyperlapse and film what you're doing. I usually do that when I'm then drawing, and people are fascinated by that stuff, and seeing the behind the scenes and just having a view of, I set up a voice activation on my mobile phone, so I can actually just have my camera sitting and I'll maybe be working and then I'll just say smile and it'll instantly take a photograph. So, it's no extra effort because all I'm doing is sharing what I'm doing in that time. Or have a camera sitting and you just have a wee chat, that they're there and you can have a chat with people. So I think, and I do appreciate it. It can, it does feel a bit like that. But the other thing is also then in the planning, well, what is the point of it? There has to be a reason. You're running a business, so there has to be a reason for what the content is that you're sharing as well, because then you can then look back and see if it's working or not. So I think that's the other thing, is that, and then that then kind of actually there's then a joy behind it, because if you're then getting messages and people are loving what you're doing, and you're then getting sales from it, which is even the bigger benefit, then that then kind of is the reward for investing in it.
Wonderful. Leah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I just want to tell everyone that's listening that this webinar will be available on DG Unlimited, and there'll be information on the page that we share the link on, where you can submit any more questions by email that you have for Leah. Please also look out on DG Unlimited's Facebook page and the Guild's Facebook page, because we're all offering various different webinar and training sessions over the coming weeks, especially during the lockdown. And once you've seen this webinar, if you would kindly fill in a feedback form, that would be wonderful. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much, Leah. That was a really, really fascinating things. I've learned things that I am going to go and implement. And I'm going to make my Instagram better. I'm going to do it. You've inspired me. So thank you very much.
No, that's been great.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say, you know, it's a pity that I can't actually physically, but if there is, you know, general questions, we could possibly do screen share, and I can actually then show actually how to specifically do certain things if there's questions that come up. I'm happy to do that.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. I will say bye-bye for now, and thank you very much.